Welcome to the deep dive. Today, we're going to explore how to cultivate a continuous sense of the divine presence. You know, that feeling of connection to something bigger than yourself, like a wellspring of peace and purpose that's always there even when life gets hectic.
It's a universal longing, really.
Yeah.
People across cultures and throughout history have sought ways to tap into that deeper dimension of experience.
And that's precisely what drew me to this YouTube video transcript from the Radha Swami Satsang Beast channel. They dive deep into practical techniques and inspiring stories from individuals who've made this continuous connection a reality in their lives.
What's fascinating is they emphasize that it's not about fleeting glimpses of the divine, but rather cultivating an ongoing awareness, like a constant companion.
That's such a beautiful image. But how do we get there? The source highlights contemplative practices as a key starting point. It's about quieting the mind, turning down the volume of the external world so you can hear that inner voice.
Think of it like training your attention. Much like you train a muscle, the more you practice turning inward, the stronger that connection becomes.
Okay, that makes sense. But for someone just starting out, it can feel overwhelming. Where do we even begin?
The source introduces us to Françoise Fenelon, a 17th century spiritual writer who offers a practical roadmap with his 4 methods for cultivating awareness of God's presence.
I'm all ears. Tell me more about these methods.
The first method is remembering God's omnipresence, the idea that the divine isn't confined to specific places or times. It's woven into the very fabric of existence, present everywhere and always.
So it's about recognizing that connection in the everyday, not just seeking it in special moments of prayer or meditation.
Exactly. Fenelon's second method builds on this idea with the concept of inner dwelling. It's the understanding that God resides within you in the depths of your very being. It's about accessing that inner sanctuary, that spark of the divine that's always present within.
This inner dwelling idea, is it similar to connecting with your intuition or that sense of deep inner knowing?
You're right on track. It's about tuning into that inner wisdom, that still small voice within. Fenelon's third method, the upward gaze, provides a powerful visual for cultivating this connection. He suggests picturing Jesus, or a figure representing the divine, looking upon you with love and care.
It's almost like inviting that sense of benevolent presence into your awareness, right? Creating a felt sense of being supported and guided. What about the fourth method?
The fourth method is all about companionship. Fenelon suggests imagining Jesus, or your chosen representation of the divine, as a constant companion walking alongside you throughout your day.
I love that. It's like carrying that sense of connection and support with you no matter what challenges you face. It seems all 4 of these methods emphasize that inward shift we talked about earlier, bringing that awareness of the divine into each moment.
You've hit the nail on the head. And to see these methods in action, the source introduces us to the captivating story of Brother Lawrence, a 17th century Carmelite monk who truly embodied this practice of God's presence.
I've heard whispers of Brother Lawrence, something about finding the divine in the most mundane tasks.
That's right. Initially, he struggled with traditional prayer methods, but he had a breakthrough when he shifted his focus to simply being aware of God's presence throughout his day, even while working in the bustling monastery kitchen.
That's remarkable. It sounds like he discovered that the divine wasn't something to be sought outside himself, but rather a presence to be cultivated within, moment by moment.
Precisely. And his story offers some incredibly valuable insights. One of the most striking is his emphasis on gently bringing the mind back to God without self-reproach when it wanders. He understood that our minds are naturally prone to distraction.
So it's not about achieving some perfect state of unwavering focus, but rather about cultivating a gentle, loving awareness even amidst those inevitable distractions.
Exactly. It's more like a dance than a rigid posture. We sway away and then gently guide ourselves back. The source includes some vivid anecdotes about Brother Lawrence that really illustrate this point.
Do tell. I'm always a sucker for a good story. What kind of experiences did he have?
Well, there's this one story where he describes feeling God's presence so intensely, even amidst the chaos of the kitchen, that he would have to temper his outward expressions of joy. Can you imagine finding such profound joy in the most ordinary of tasks?
That's incredible. It really flips the script on where we might expect to find the divine, doesn't it? It's not just about secluded retreats or moments of deep contemplation, but also about finding that connection in the everyday hustle and bustle.
It speaks to that idea that the sacred is woven into the fabric of life if we only open our eyes to see it.
And this openness seems to be a recurring theme. The source mentions another anecdote where Brother Lawrence advises approaching God with the humility of a dumb or paralytic beggar at a rich man's gate. It's a powerful image reminding us to let go of our ego and preconceived notions when embarking on this journey.
It's about approaching the divine with a sense of wonder and receptivity, rather than trying to fit it into our limited understanding. And this humility, this willingness to surrender, seems to be at the heart of Brother Lawrence's transformation. He found that by cultivating a continuous awareness of God's presence, a wellspring of peace and joy emerged from within, radiating outwards to touch the lives of those around him.
It's like his inner transformation rippled outwards, creating a positive impact on the world around him. It's a beautiful testament to the transformative power of this practice.
It is. And speaking of transformation, the source goes on to introduce us to two more figures who embraced this practice of the presence: Thomas Kelly and Nancy Mayorga, both from the 20th century.
Now, I'm curious to hear their perspectives. Did they build on Brother Lawrence's ideas or offer a different take on cultivating the divine presence?
They definitely add their own unique insights to the conversation. What I find particularly inspiring about Thomas Kelly is his emphasis on the fact that this practice is possible even in the midst of a busy life. He reminds us that we don't need to retreat from the world to find the divine.
That's such an important point, especially for those of us who feel overwhelmed by the demands of modern life. It's reassuring to hear that this practice doesn't require a complete overhaul of our lives, but rather a shift in perspective and a commitment to weaving moments of presence into our daily routines.
Exactly. Kelly challenges that notion that spiritual practice needs to be separate from everyday life instead. He suggests that we can find those moments of connection even amidst our responsibilities, in the pauses between tasks, in the simple act of paying attention to our breath as we move through our day.
It's about finding those sacred spaces in the midst of the mundane, isn't it? And what about Nancy Mayorga? What wisdom does she offer?
Mayorga offers a perspective that I think a lot of people can relate to. She emphasizes that achieving a constant sense of God's presence isn't about a sudden dramatic shift in consciousness, but rather a gradual process of habit formation. It's about consistently choosing to bring our awareness back to the divine, just as Brother Lawrence advised, even when our minds inevitably wander.
So it's more about a slow and steady cultivation of awareness rather than a lightning bolt of enlightenment.
Precisely. It's like tending a garden. We plant the seeds, we water them, we nurture them, and over time they blossom. Mayorga reminds us that transformation takes time and dedication. It's about making those small, consistent choices that gradually reshape our inner landscape.
This is all so fascinating. It feels like we're building a toolkit for cultivating this continuous sense of the divine presence. We have contemplative practices, inspiring stories, practical tips for integrating this awareness into daily life, and reminders about patience and self-compassion along the way. But before we get too carried away, I want to pause for a moment and acknowledge that this whole concept of God's presence might feel a bit abstract or even foreign to some listeners.
That's a valid point, and it's important to remember that this exploration is about tapping into that universal longing for connection with something greater than ourselves. Regardless of our specific beliefs or religious background, perhaps you relate to the concept of a higher power in the universe, or simply a sense of interconnectedness.
Exactly. The essence of this practice transcends specific labels or doctrines, whether we call it God the Divine or simply a deep sense of presence and peace. The core principle remains the same. It's about cultivating awareness of something that transcends our limited sense of self.
You've captured it beautifully. It's about cultivating a sense of awe and wonder for the mystery of life itself.
I love that. So what does this mean for us as individuals navigating the complexities of the 21st century? How can we take these ancient practices and make them relevant to our modern lives?
That's the million-dollar question, isn't it? And I think the beauty lies in the simplicity and adaptability of these practices. We can start small, incorporating those miniature moments of mindfulness into our daily routines.
You mean like pausing to appreciate a beautiful sunset, taking a deep breath before a meeting, or even savoring the taste of your morning coffee?
Exactly. It's about creating those tiny pauses, those moments of intentional awareness throughout the day. These little shifts in attention can gradually cultivate a deeper connection to that sense of presence that's always available.
I love that idea. It's about weaving these moments of awareness into the fabric of our everyday lives rather than treating them as separate from our real world. It feels much more accessible and sustainable that way.
Absolutely. And as we become more accustomed to this practice, we might find ourselves naturally extending those moments of presence, bringing that awareness into our work, our relationships, and our interactions with the world around us.
It's like we're gradually rewiring our brains to be more attuned to that deeper dimension of reality. It's a fascinating process, isn't it? And it seems like this rewiring has the potential to ripple outwards, positively impacting not only our own lives, but also the world around us.
You're absolutely right. It's like a domino effect. As we cultivate more presence and peace within ourselves, we naturally radiate that energy outwards, influencing our interactions, our communities, and ultimately the world at large. It's a beautiful and empowering thought, isn't it?
It is, and it makes me even more curious to explore the practicalities of integrating this practice into everyday life. But before we dive into that, I think it's time for us to take a quick pause. We'll be right back to wrap up this deep dive with some final reflections and takeaways that you can carry with you long after this episode ends.
Welcome back to the deep dive. We've been exploring the practice of cultivating a continuous sense of the divine presence, drawing wisdom from individuals across centuries.
From Fenelon's four methods to Brother Lawrence's transformative experiences, we've gathered a wealth of insights on this journey. And let's not forget the valuable perspectives of Thomas Kelly and Nancy Mayorga, who reminded us that this practice is both accessible and achievable, even amidst the busyness of modern life.
It's been a fascinating journey so far. But as we wrap up this deep dive, I'm wondering what are some key takeaways that our listeners can carry with them? What are those nuggets of wisdom that can help us bring this practice into our daily lives? One of the most important takeaways is that cultivating a sense of the divine presence isn't about achieving some perfect state of uninterrupted bliss. It's about recognizing that this presence is always available to us, even amidst the challenges and distractions of everyday life.
So it's less about striving for some unattainable ideal and more about shifting our perspective, recognizing that we're already swimming in an ocean of presence, even when we're caught up in the waves of daily life.
You've got it. It's like learning to see the world through a different lens, one that reveals the interconnectedness of all things and the presence of something greater than ourselves.
That's a powerful image, but I imagine it takes practice to maintain that perspective, especially when life throws curveballs our way.
Absolutely. And that's where patience and persistence come in. Remember Brother Lawrence's advice. Don't get discouraged by those moments of distraction. Simply acknowledge them and gently return to the practice.
It's about cultivating a kind and compassionate approach to ourselves, recognizing that we're all on this journey together, learning and growing along the way. Another takeaway that really resonated with me is that this practice isn't limited to specific times or places. It's something we can integrate into every aspect of our lives.
That's right. We can find those moments of connection while doing the dishes, walking the dog, or even sitting in traffic. It's about recognizing that the sacred can be found in the ordinary if we're open to it.
I love that. It's about bringing that awareness of the divine into the mundane, infusing our daily lives with a sense of purpose and connection. And as we cultivate this awareness, what kind of shifts might we notice within ourselves?
As we practice bringing our attention to the present moment, to that sense of presence within and around us, we might find ourselves experiencing greater peace, joy, and purpose in our lives.
It's almost like we're tapping into a wellspring of inner strength and resilience that helps us navigate the ups and downs of life with more grace and ease.
Exactly. And it's not just about feeling good. This inner transformation can ripple outwards, positively impacting our relationships, our communities, and even the world at large.
It's like a chain reaction of positivity. So where do we go from here? What's one small step our listeners can take today to begin cultivating a greater awareness of the divine in their own lives?
I would invite you to simply pause for a moment and notice your breath. Feel the rise and fall of your chest, the gentle flow of air in and out of your nostrils. In this simple act of observation, you're already connecting with the present moment, with the life force that animates your being.
It's such a simple yet powerful practice. And as you become more comfortable with this awareness of your breath, you can begin to expand your attention outwards, noticing the sights, sounds, and sensations of the world around you.
Exactly. Pay attention to the warmth of the sun on your skin, the sound of birdsong, the laughter of children. In these seemingly ordinary moments, you might just catch a glimpse of the extraordinary, the divine presence that permeates all things.
And who knows, you might even find yourself experiencing those fleeting moments of awe and wonder that remind you of the beauty and mystery of life itself.
As we wrap up this deep dive, I'd like to leave you with one final thought. Where in your life do you already sense hints of the divine presence? Perhaps it's in the love you share with family and friends, the beauty of nature, or the creative spark that ignites your passions.
Pay attention to those moments, nurture them, and allow them to guide you on your own unique journey of awakening.
Thank you for joining us on this exploration of cultivating a continuous sense of the divine presence. May this deep dive inspire you to embark on your own journey of discovery and connection.
Until next time, keep seeking, keep exploring, and keep diving deep.